Hello, social media friends of the Matrix. This is Joanna Brumley coming to you from Hopewell, Virginia, on the set of The Walking Dead.
After filming this footage, I was told that the director said that this was a spinoff of The Walking Dead and that it had a new cast and they weren't sure that they were going to put The Walking Dead in its title. So I decided to film it anyway and give you a more in-depth description and reason why I decided to study and teach natural law. And the reason is because it is the truth. It is actually God's law. If you go back to one of my videos and watch the law of divine oneness, you will see that the universe was created by God, and what he did was he set the universe in place with particular laws that govern the universe. And within that governing system, we are bound by it, and as a result of that, I just think it's a good idea for us to know what it is, study it, understand it, and through action apply it so that we could be wise in our decision making. And because we have natural law, God put it in place to give us free will of choice. And based on our choices, consequences are the result of that choice. Through the law of divine oneness, what affects you affects me, and what affects me affects you. The ultimate choices that we make are a collective whole. In other words, our thoughts and our actions collectively as a whole determines the now and our future. So people's ignorance affects our freedom. My voice is the most powerful force I have. I'm either going to bring people up or I'm going to bring people down. I choose to build people up and awaken them from walking dead. There is a whole lot to be said about the law of action. In fact, it goes along with the law of attraction. The law of attraction simply says that likes attract likes and thoughts become things. But when you read about the law of attraction, a lot of times the law of action is not explained. And it's really the law of action that you take in order to attract what it is that you want or need or desire. And sometimes within the law of action, you will need to take inaction. And I'm going to explain an experience that I went through a while back where inaction was needed. In my place of employment at this particular time, one of my colleagues asked me a few questions. The first question was, did I work another job? And the answer was no. The second question was, how did the CEO determine the amount of workload that they would give me? And my reply was, I made myself available to the CEO in whatever it was that they needed, I was willing to do. And that was pretty much the end of that conversation. However, in my mind, when that particular question was asked, an automatic red flag popped up in my mind. I had no idea why. It was a valid question, and I gave a valid answer. Several months later, I was in a position while working that automatically there was chaos all around. And the goal and the objective in the midst of this chaos was to make sure that everybody involved was safe. That goal was accomplished. The next night, I had to again work this process. And so the CEO and I got together and we devised a plan in case in case of the event that the chaos occurred.
we would have a backup plan to keep peace. And that is what I did. I took that action. In the midst of that, behind the scenes, I was instructed to speed up the process. So in my mind, I came up with 2 scripts, and I would alternate between each script depending on the events that was taking place. So in other words, I did one script, and then I did the other script, and then I went back to one. So the combination was like 1, 2, 1, 2, until it was all done. And it was successful. We did not have any chaos, and everything went smooth. As a result of that, those that were indirectly involved, in other words, people who were creating the bread and butter, were not satisfied because the speeding up process created a chink in the flow of an habitual practice. I'm saying it like this because I'm not trying to describe the work that I did. I'm not trying to describe where I worked, and I'm not trying to describe who I was working with. I'm just trying to give you a brief scenario. So I will be talking in this type of language. So because the bread and butter had issues with the flow of things, it was brought to my attention well after the fact. So after the process was finished, the CEO and I were on the same level. You know, we were both thankful that chaos didn't occur, everything went peaceful, and everything went on according to plan. Well, a few months later, I had a meeting with the CEO, and everything had changed. This particular CEO decided that the opinions of the bread and butter were highly important. And I understood that because they do play a part in this whole process as well. A lot of times in this particular situation, the bread and butter has absolutely no idea what it is those of us who are actually doing the process knows what's going on. And that's okay too. So we're dealing with all types of different aspects to the accomplished goal. Well, it had upset the CEO, and it was as if the situation got turned around to where I was responsible for the entire thing. And in fact, it was brought to my attention that the whole thing was my fault. I did play a part in it. I know that I was not the only part in the scenario, but, you know, I'll take responsibility for my actions, and I did. However, as a result of it, my workload was less than the following cycle. And that red flag question came back into my mind. I didn't know what to do with it. However, it was resonating in my mind constantly. Well, when it started to be that time to redo the process of what we do at this particular place of employment, I noticed that this person that had asked me that question was now taking on the responsibility of what I was doing. And then right then and there, I knew what was up. This person asked me this question because they wanted more responsibility, and they decided to figure out how to manipulate the situation by finding a chink in the cycle so that they could have more availability at the expense of someone else, which that someone else was me at the time. I could have acted on that right then and there. I could have said something to the CEO, but I didn't. And the reason being is because there were still a lot of unanswered questions at that particular time. So I decided to not act on that and just keep my eyes open and my ears open. So what I did was is I had an instinct, my gut was telling me to go and read the book of Proverbs, which I'm glad I did. Every day before I went to work, I read a chapter for 31 days. 31 Proverbs. 31 days I read a chapter every day, and it's a good thing I did because it kept my strength up. In the meantime, all of this weird stuff at the place of employment was happening. Just a lot of really odd things. Anyway, so once it all came into realization, I knew that because this person used a situation and manipulated the situation and acted on that, that what they did was eventually going to be exposed, and eventually it was going to be self-destructive on their behalf. So later, after it was all over, what I find interesting is that guilt came into play on behalf of the CEO, and I was given more opportunities that proved the betterment of my abilities. And at the end of this situation, when it all came down to, not knowing and trying to figure out what else should I be doing, I just prayed. I just prayed. I meditated. I focused on myself in reference to my job, and I made sure that I did the very best I could do, and it worked. Um, that year, the process was fantastic. In fact, I am so proud of the outcome of my actions and what it was and what I could handle. So this person ended up messing up, sabotaging their own position. They used certain tactics that did not go well in this particular business, and they ended up getting fired. So sometimes inaction is what is needed because it will allow you to see a fuller picture, and then you can choose where you need to act and where you don't need to act. So I find it interesting in reference to this story because not only did I use the law of action, but the law of divine oneness was applied because I did a lot of praying, I did a lot of meditating, I did a lot of researching. I stood back and watched and waited and listened. So the law of divine oneness was exercised. The law of vibration was exercised on all of our behalves because energy flows in circular motions, and everything came back full circle. I used the law of action, and I'm pretty sure, I'm not positive on this, but I'm sure that the law of correspondence also applied in this scenario, which is the next video I will be doing, which I will be explaining. And I'm going to find out if the law of correspondence worked in this situation because I did end up getting some benefit. I ended up getting some recognition as well. And it was crazy though. It was a whole year process of trying to figure out what was going on, and it was hard not to act. It was hard not to use my voice, but I knew that it was the best thing to do. So, that is it. The law of action. Sometimes you need to take action to get where you need to go, and sometimes you just need to sit back and take a look at things and reevaluate the situation before you begin to act again. Alright, so I'll see you in my next video. Thanks for watching.